you need to know right here on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Hey, hey. What's going on? Do you know what today is? Yeah, okay, it is Monday. Today is Monday. Welcome in on this Monday, in fact. Hey to you. Wherever you are, however you're listening, today is a live radio show. It's happening right now as we speak. Literally and figuratively as I speak. So it's live. It means you can be a part of it. I hope you will be. Text the show, call the show, comment on the live stream, give you all that info coming up. With us today on this Monday, it's always better when you chime in here in the Bureau. That is the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio, Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance. Go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. Yeah, so what'd you do this weekend? Okay, that's on the table. What'd you eat? Beaver and I got to texting about a tasty treat that I discovered this weekend. And so there will be some food talk. I'll tell you what that is. And, I guess, again, more free for whatever it's worth, plugs for certain individual food items. But that's only a part of what will go on today. You can text me on the Country Pleasin' text line, Country Pleasin' sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It's the best, hands down. Not close, in my opinion. The number to text is 885-3776. 601 number, 885-3776. You text that number, I'll get it. You can also call me. That way we get to hear your voice. The number to call is 897-1059. That's 601 number, 897-1059. And you can be a part of the show on the live stream. It's streaming out there on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's on X, formerly Twitter. Formerly Twitter. So feel free to pop a comment in there. If you just post it, I'll see it all in one nice, neat column right here, and then I can click it, and like magic, it pops up on the screen like this. From Sven, all the way over in Berlin, Germany. A true story. And Sven says, "Hail State, everyone." He said, "I have good news and bad news for LSU baseball. The good news, congrats to your 8th championship, 8th title. The bad news, enjoy it. It's your last one for a long time. The state's coming after you." That, the tone setter from Sven on the live stream. Noah, okay, I said, do you know what day it is? It is Monday. What about this? What about the number 67? Anybody know what the significance of the number 67 is today? You got any guesses? The significance of the number 67. On today, July the 23rd, 2025, what is the significance of the number the number 67? Let that simmer, and let me holler at Beeve and see what he's up to. Hey, B.
Hey, Matt Wyatt.
How you is?
I'm pretty good.
I sent you a picture a little while ago. Not the one from yesterday about the movie rental deal. A more recent one. I texted you a picture.
The barrel juice?
Is that what it was called?
You know, I don't remember the exact name.
Yeah.
Of those things.
Are you looking that up? I was fixing to. Okay, you look it up and see what you can find. While he does that, for those listening. Yeah, this popped up on my feed a little while ago, and I saw it. And, man, this is one of those things I can look at the picture and I can taste it. I can taste it simply by looking at the picture. You remember the Kool-Aid type drink, the little sugary Kool-Aid type drink that came in a plastic? It fit in your hand when you were like 9 or 10 years old, and it was the shape like a barrel. And on the top, it had the little tinfoil cap. You peel the cap off the barrel and then turn it up, drink all that, whatever that sugary colorful liquid was inside the little barrel. You got an official name for that, Beef?
Yeah, so they're called Little Hug fruit barrels. But now they're including a tiny straw in these.
What?
Which, remember when we were little, that was the drawback.
Yeah.
Is the top of it, whatever that was made of.
Yeah.
You kind of had to dig it a little bit to get it open. But now these kids got straws just to poke in there. Nothing stopping them.
I know, but the other thing was too, Beav, like let's just say, for example, you go to church camp, and you're only supposed to get one. You know what I mean? And some kid is in line to get one, and he's got that red mustache on already. And we knew, no, you already had one, man. Evidence all over your lip. You can't get another one. You're supposed to get one this trip. You've already had it. Now you give them a straw. We can't tell who's skipping back in line or not. Well, that's just one example. It's just one example of all the problems giving them straw. Some things were better the way they were, B. But I guess now we don't have to go around picking up little tinfoil lids that have been peeled off that drink. Now, look, I have one question for you, Beaver. I'm not sure, I don't know if you know the answer or not. I just have one question for you on that. What was that aftertaste about? With the barrel drink?
Okay, get out of my head, because this is not the first time we've talked about this, and last time it came up, I felt like you were kind of looking back at them fondly, but then I got to remembering a weird taste.
Yeah.
So now that you mentioned the taste, I'm glad. So you had it too. It wasn't just my faulty memory.
And maybe it was because as a kid you expected it to taste just like regular old Kool-Aid, like the brand, Kool-Aid, and it didn't. It had a different taste, and it had more of a, I don't know what you call it. It was a little more tangy. Let me just say this, though, Beaver. When I posted that on X a little while ago, I got 2 responses. The first one was from Chad, and he said, should we have been a little more concerned about the fact that it was in a grenade-shaped container? Okay. But then Whit said, and that weird burn when it hit the back of your throat. And I think that's what we're talking. It was like a weird burn in the back of your throat along with that aftertaste. And it's kind of the same thing. But what it was, you were always drinking it when you were out hot somewhere. But the barrel drink, and it was called a Little Hug?
Yeah.
First of all, congrats to Bulldog Blitz, because he got it. As soon as I brought it up, he got it. Man. And again, you go to certain events, Beaver, when you were a kid, and there would be like a pallet of blue barrel drinks and a pallet of red barrel drinks. And we're making a mess. Hey, and Beaver, let me just go ahead and describe one more leftover scene in the southern United States, particularly here in Mississippi, when you'd have a party or maybe a church event, and there were lots of these barrel drinks consumed. Here you go. You ready for this visual? Because this is going to be another accurate thing. You ready for this? You glance over. Somebody has thrown down their barrel, their empty barrel that they consumed. They threw it down, and it's covered in ants. Ants love those things. The lids. But it's that time of year. It's barrel drink. It's barrel drink time of year. In fact, when we, I don't know that I can pull this off, but maybe we ought to. At the end of this week on Friday, when we do this radio show from 12 to 2, live at Camper Corral in Gluckstadt, Mississippi /Madison. We'll be live there Friday at Camper Corral be right smack in the middle of their customer appreciation sales going on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Huge discounts, 20% off all the parts they sell on those 3 days, Thursday through Saturday. 20 to 40% off MSRP on all campers. If you buy a new or used camper or RV in those 3 days, you're automatically entered for one of those Flex Roof upgrades. Flex Armor roof upgrades between $6,000 and $10,000 value. It's a huge thing. We're gonna have some food there. Maybe what we do is maybe we need to track down a big pallet of Red Barrel drinks for that event too. Let's just go full on summertime. Maybe we ought to do that. It's under consideration. I'll put it that way. Hey, Beav, when I threw it out there and I said, does anybody know the significance of the number 67 today on this Monday, June 23rd? Did you know the answer? Do you have a theory as to what the answer might be?
Oh, 67. Now that I'm looking at the date, I believe you are talking about 67 days till college football.
Bring it on, Beav! He nailed it. 67 days from today, we're going to kick off between Mississippi State and Southern Miss in Hattiesburg at 11 a.m. The Beaver, I got a feeling on August 30th that fake turf at Hattiesburg at 11 a.m. is going to be about 148 degrees. Yep. And let's see, several people got it. David and Brandon, he got it. That was on the Country Pleasing text line. I didn't fool him. Nor did it fool Sven, a man over in Germany. It's nighttime over there. Sun's about to go down where he lives. But yeah. Yeah, 67 days from today. Hey, where's my other? I used to have the Southern Miss fight song on here somewhere. We need to find that too. We can't. I mean, I'm the state guy, but we need to play their fight song too for them. Anyway, when I find it, I'll play. Here it is. To the top, Southern Miss. Here we go. Sven said it is 7:11 p.m. where he is right now in Germany. So there's your 7-hour difference. Yeah, man. So 67 days from today, and I'm at a point in life where 67 days is going to go by about like this right here. And that's how quickly it'll go by. That's how quickly 67 days will go by. And that's good. But I have two other things I'm counting down. And I mentioned one of them to you just a little bit ago. But so we're also going to count down this week. We are 5 days away. Let's see, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, 5 days away from the show on this Friday for the customer appreciation sale at Camper Corral. Told you about that a minute ago, so that's going on Friday. I'll see you out there too. Y'all come see me. But that means we're also the Wyatts in our house. We are 4 days away from getting Mary Liddy back home because she's at church camp this week. And the homecoming queen does not quite know what to do with herself right now. It's like this preview of this. Any parents out there, you experience that? First time you get a real preview of what it's like for the kid not to be here. And I looked at her yesterday. I said, it's a good thing you like me. Because can you imagine this if you didn't? It's just me and you here. I mean, that would potentially be tough. Let's see. Dennis, formerly of Omaha, he texted the show. He says, what is Sven in Germany's connection to MSU? All right, there you go, Sven. If you're listening, we have a question for you. We are connecting people across oceans and other continents to you in Berlin, Germany. They want an answer. How Sven in Berlin is connected to Mississippi State. And I know you've told me that before, but I don't want to get the details mixed up. I know it had something to do also with your son, but let me know and I'll pass that along. Yeah, Blitz, he got it also. Not just David and Brandon, but Bulldog Blitz, he got it also. 67 days away from kickoff. State, Southern Miss. Hey, by the way, let me tell you about something. If you're a diehard, and I preface this that way to say that my impression is that only a die-hard Mississippi State football fan would really want to watch this anyway. So this doesn't apply if you're not. But I posted a video it's only 2-3 days old, whatever, and we'll have some weekly videos on the YouTube channel going forward into football season. But this one was regarding the position on Mississippi State's football team that I'm most excited. I thought that was probably the best word to use, most excited, to see this year in 2025. The position group on State's football team that I'm most excited to see on the field this fall in 2025. It's on the YouTube channel. You can just look up Matt Wyatt Media or Radio Wyatt. Either one of them will get you there. And there's links on the social media channels too, at Radio Wyatt. A few links that popped up the last few days where I shared it so as to try to make it easier for people to find and see. But, you know, I toyed around with not using the word excited because naturally you say, okay, well, I'm excited about this or I'm excited to see that. Well, there's this, you know, the connotation is that you are confident, you know, and I don't know that I necessarily am. There's an anticipation. I think you could also say it that way for me. The position group for State that I have the most anticipation to see how it plays out this fall for State. But anyway, either way you want to word it, what I'm talking about is a defensive line. Defensive front, or just blanket term from end to end, defensive line. And I kind of spelled it out, not to go into every single gory detail, but there were some stats to back it up. How historically bad it was a year ago for that unit on State's defense, just really as a team, you know, on their team. And then compared to what we got a glimpse at in the spring, and I don't know if it's a deal where I'm not ready to say, okay, this automatically translates to State going from, as a defensive line, going worst to first or worst to near first, you know, in the SEC. That's not at all what I'm saying. And there is an element of it couldn't have been worse, and so it can only be better. But what I looked at, and you could see it in the spring, was all these new people they transferred in there. And so I go through a little bit of each of these transfers on top of what State, you know, does have coming back on that defensive line. And again, last year it was pitiful. It was non-competitive on defensive line. But kind of walk through some of that. And it's not just for clicks. It really is what I'm, you know, most anticipating to see regarding State's team. They have Rashean Thomas that came in from Northern Illinois. He's played a ton of football. He's an older guy, didn't play much last year. They brought in Red Hibbler, who's a Mississippi guy initially, but he went to NC State after JUCO, and he was really productive at NC State as a pass rusher. Okay, there's two. They brought in, it's either Darren or Deron Reed. I'm not sure which one it is, but last name Reed from Auburn, you know, initially from Columbus, Georgia, but then he went to Auburn, and now he's at State. SEC-type body in your front. They brought in Will Whitson from Coastal Carolina. Big guy, old guy, played a lot of football in his career. They brought in, that's four. A fifth would be a kid named Colin Coates, who's not real tall. He's like a nose guard type, 6'2", 320. Okay, and he was at Charlotte. Big body in the middle. Here's a sixth player they brought in, Jameel Burrows, who transferred in from Miami. Now, he was initially out of high school. He was at Alabama, played there. His best game while he was at Alabama was against Mississippi State one year. Then he went to Miami, but he transferred in June, so he didn't play at all last year for them. He was just there. Now he's at State. Saw him in the spring. There's a sixth guy. A seventh is Jere Bledsoe, big defensive lineman, 315 pounds from Texas. He transferred in from the Longhorns. And there was a JUCO addition in there too. He's not a 4-year school transfer, but a JUCO addition and a really big guy, 6'5", 345 from Tyler JUCO. He's initially from Phoenix City, Alabama. His name is Jamarcus Moy. So 7 4-year school transfers, 8 if you include the big 345-pound kid from JUCO. That 8 players and 7 of the 8 from 4 years. Okay, and about maybe 5 to 6 of those 8 players all are older and have played a ton of football at their previous schools. And you could just see it in the spring when you looked at them, like on site. They were much better and just harder to block. And they had some guys who were disrupting things, particularly Burrows and Hibbler. And so I don't know, like, how do they gel and how does it all work and who's healthy by the time you play the first game and all those kinds of things. And I think there might even be another one or so that I haven't even touched on yet. But they went, you could just see, I don't know what the numbers are, but there was a certain amount of money that they loaded into a wheelbarrow and they went out knocking on the doors of defensive linemen and have brought in a ton. It is a total makeover on the defensive front, which is good. And I think that's obviously then why I'm most interested, excited, anticipating getting to watch that group and kind of see what it's like. Because after watching 12 games of what it was like last year, I can't take it anymore. I can't go through that again. From a D-line standpoint, I can't take it. So I think this is bound to be a better experience. A lot of it will depend on who's healthy. And I think, it just raises the level of competition. The guys who are there, Trevion, if Dinkins is healthy, some of those guys who were here a year ago, it helps them, but it also raises the level of competition. I just got to hope that they're going to be much better. All right, just getting started with you. I'll get to Sven's story as to why he's a Mississippi State fan. He's over in Berlin, Germany, and all your texts, a bunch of them, all coming up. Stick around.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and murraywest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, murraywest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. murraywest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
I had this opportunity come up through a friend of mine that was an agent here at Farm Bureau that, he said this may be something I like to do because he knew I was involved in the community. And what we do, we're supporting the community. We're doing stuff to protect the members of our community. I've been here almost a decade. And what we do, we help people every day through the products we sell. We make recommendations to them, stuff to protect their assets, protect their lives, their families, and we're local. We're local people. Everybody that works in this office has grown up here, lived here, played ball in this community. I've coached in this community, been on the park boards, the sports league boards, the booster club boards. The community is what's important here in Farm Bureau. We push the local community. We're a Mississippi company. That's a Washington School team ball from 2019. Greg Wallace was the head coach then, and him and I were really good friends. I've been in Greenville my whole entire life. My family's been here. This is home. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to support the people of Washington County, protect them. I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County. We are the home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both. Break me off a piece of that. Look at that. What that is. That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now.
That's the Zone 105.9 and coming to you worldwide at thezone1059.com.
All right. Back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance. Go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance. Okay, here's the answer. Somebody on the text line was curious as to Sven in Berlin, who listens to the show online, and he comments on the YouTube live stream, and why he's a State fan over there. So his father-in-law, he commented here, he gave us the info. He said his father-in-law is from Mississippi. He was in the Air Force nearly 40 years, stationed in Berlin, and told my son, you are going to Mississippi State. And no debate. And he was a State alum. So it is a family connection. And how about that? So granddad tells grandson, that's where you're going. And so he went. And how about that? So your father-in-law, Sven, says, by the way, Matt, his hometown, Tupelo, Mississippi. I don't know if you've ever heard of that place. Yeah, well, that is really cool. Really cool. Small world. And, yeah, I think you did share that with us once before, but it's been a couple of years, Sven. So thanks for passing along the details. And for those on the text line, the country-pleasing text line, thanks for the question. All right. Hunter texted the show. He was talking about those barrel drinks also. He said purple always cut the back of your throat if you drank two or more. Yeah. What was in those things? Why was that happening? Nick said those drinks were at every birthday party I had as a kid. He said throw in some beanie weenies, game on. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And some ice cream cake, right? Now maybe this would be maybe we should just rename it. You know, that we lovingly referred to it as barrel drinks, but they were called Little Hugs, LIL', Little Hugs. But somebody texted in and said, you're killing me today. Them barrel drinks tasted like, and then here he says, funky fluid. Maybe that's what it needs to be named instead. White Denzel texted the show, and he said Little Hugs were goated as kids. Kids get mad at my daughter's birthdays because I will buy those for the drinks instead of Capri Sun.
Well, they should. They should get mad, White Denzel. Here's the thing. The funky fluid, by the way, I do really appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Yes, because it was a weird taste. Now, here's the thing. When we were little, we had to take what we can get. We were given Little Hugs, the funky fluid hugs.
Yeah.
But White Denzel, he says he buys them now. White Denzel, you're grown. You have your own money. We no longer have to take what we can get. So don't subject these kids to this terrible barrel fluid.
Right.
Not in 2025.
Beav, when I was a kid, I don't know why this is the, but like Capri Sun, I think maybe it's because it tasted so good, but they were kind of a luxury item for me in my life coming up. It was not like I didn't have like a Capri Sun at arm's length at all times. It was kind of a rarity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when I got one, I always remember thinking, man, this is good. These things right here, and maybe it's because they tasted better than the other stuff I was getting. But
I was always partial to the Kool-Aid Cool Bursts.
Okay.
Do you remember those? There were the Cool Bursts. They came in a little plastic bottle.
Okay.
There was also a different brand, same design, called Squeeze It.
Oh, really? Here's my question for you, Beaver. Was, since cool in Kool-Aid is spelled with a K, did they also spell the cool in Cool Burst with a K, or did it have a C?
Oh, it's K.
Okay. I'm looking at it now. Oh, I see. Yeah, it had the little. You talking about the ones that had the little twisty top?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost like you had a little key that came off the top of it. And you were unlocking the sugar. Unlock the sugar. All right, the Cool Burst. Yeah. Hey, and by the way, on the countdown for football, not only 67 days, okay, but I got a ticker going here. 67 days, 22 hours, 28 minutes, and 26, 25, 24, 23 seconds. We're counting it down. So if you want to know at any point, if you want to know, and I'm going to save this like as a bookmark this tab, football countdown, done. So if at any point anybody wants to know exactly to the second until kickoff, I can give it to you. For whatever that's worth. All right. Still early in the show. Time for headlines.
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world.
Good evening, and welcome to Eyewitness News.
Here's what's making news.
Headlines brought to you by the Mortgage Man Group, powered by Luminate Bank. Find them online at mortgagemanms.com. Anything mortgage related in the state of Mississippi, here or Starkville or Oxford or Tupelo or Memphis or whatever. I know Memphis is not Mississippi, but it's just giving you an example. That's where you go. Find them online at mortgagemanms.com. Well, for the second time in 3 years, the LSU Fighting Tigers are your College World Series baseball national champs. It's their 8th College World Series title as a program. And oh, by the way, it's what, 5 in a row, 6 in a row, something like that for the SEC. We got to talk about it. Did you see the Coastal Carolina baseball coach get thrown out of the game in the first inning yesterday? And then the whole issue of, did he bump that umpire who couldn't keep his balance and fell over awkwardly in front of 25,000 people? Yeah, more on that in a bit. That's all coming up. I got another baseball note here for you. Okay. And this one's personal because he's a friend of mine. Jake Mangum extended his hit streak to 10 games, even though it was in a losing effort yesterday for the Tampa Bay Rays. They took the series over the Detroit Tigers in Tampa, 2 out of 3, but Detroit salvaged a game yesterday and beat the Rays 9-3. Again, but another series win for Tampa, and this time against Detroit, who's still got the best record in all of baseball right now. That was their 49th win. So it's a heck of a series win for them. Jake had at least a hit in all the games. Yesterday he had 2 hits. He was 2 for 3 with 2 doubles in the ball game. And so the Rays are hanging in there. They're still 2.5 back of the Yankees, who won a couple of games back-to-back against the Orioles this weekend. And they're right there. They're about to hit the road. Well, they're traveling today. They're going to play in Kansas City against the Royals, 3 games beginning tomorrow. For Jake, I mentioned the hit streak. He's up to 10 games. He's hit safely in 11 of his last 12. Right now, Jake has his average sitting there at 318. Kid's batting 318. He actually began the month of June at 316. batting .316 at the beginning of the month of June. So over the course of the month until right now anyway, he has raised his batting average by 2 points. So there's that. And from the football world, Cleveland Browns rookie quarterback, former Colorado Buffalo and former Jackson State starting quarterback Shedeur Sanders, speeding citation for driving 101 miles per hour this week. Apparently, it was not the first time that he's been caught speeding this month in Ohio. According to court records up there, filed back on June the 6th, Shedeur got pulled over by the Ohio State Patrol earlier this month, and in that alleged violation, which took place on June the 5th, that was in Brunswick Hills, Ohio, he got pulled over for going 91 in a 65. It's okay, though. He can afford it. According to that record, Sanders failed to appear for an arraignment for that citation, and he faces $269 in fines and court costs. And I guess now the following question would be, is it worth it? It's one thing to do it once, go 91 in a 65, you get popped with a ticket, get pulled over, you don't show up, they're going to fine you. It's another thing to, within a month, within actually a few weeks, go out and do it again. And this time you're going not 91, you're going 101. So they better rein that in real quick. And the worst thing about it is like, okay, somebody getting a ticket, somebody speeding, whatever, who are we to judge? But that kind of stuff is really dangerous, and you put innocent people's lives in danger. And you can't be doing that. All right, those are your headlines. Brought to you by the Mortgage Man Group, powered by Luminate Bank here in Mississippi. Find them online at mortgagemanms.com. mortgagemanms.com. Hey, when we come back, Jason, I'm going to start off with your text about Mississippi State football, and then we'll pick it up from there, okay? By the way, I watched the video. I didn't see it happen live, but I watched the video of the Coastal Carolina coach coming out of the dugout. They rung him up, threw him from the game in the first inning. Now he goes out, and the umpire that says he got bumped, it was his fault. He tried to step in between the coach and the other umpire. He bumped the coach, then got his foot caught up and fell. And we've all fallen like that at some point, and you look up and see if anybody's looking. This man did it on home plate in the championship game with cameras rolling, bless his heart. All right, rolling along with you in the Bureau. Stick around.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that. You know what that is? That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now. Country Pleasing sausage, these flavors, and many, many others. Get them online at countrypleasing.com, at a grocery store near you, pretty much anywhere in the Southeast. Walk up in there and say, Country Pleasing, please. They'll know what you're talking about.
Grew up on a family farm out past Leland, just born and raised here in the Mississippi Delta. Never really thought about moving out. It's where it's where my roots are. Our family's a big sports family. It's 4 boys and 1 girl, and all 4 of us boys went and played ball at Delta Community College. My dad, he's always been honestly a role model of mine. He's farmed his whole life. We attend St. James Catholic Church in Leland, where we went to church my whole life, and then now continuing my family, me and my wife and my 3 kids. Being a Christian is everything for me and my family. Being born and raised here in this area, there's just something about this area. I mean, when you pull into it, you don't see a whole lot, but being born and raised here and the farm families and just the people that grew up here, the people that you see here, you see in the grocery store, you go to church with, small town community, you're gonna run into people that you know. It puts a smile on your face knowing that you know the people in your area, in your community. Get to know them as friends and now bring them in to my office here and creating that relationship, extending it on, getting them as insureds, as customers of mine, who I call friend. I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau, and we are the home team.
Y'all heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. I say they do quality stuff. They really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough.
Right here, right now on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Back with you, I'm Matt in the Bureau. Comment, text, call. You can be a part of the show. It's the same as, grabbing a chair, pulling up to the table, plopping down next to us here and chime in. That's totally fine. Even got hot coffee for you. Hot coffee from High Point Roasters in New Albany, Mississippi. Go to highpointroasters.com and get you some. Big 1-pound bags of it there, too, so you're not going to run out anytime soon. Get it already ground or whole bean, single origin or blends, different kinds of roasts. You're going to like it. Will, happy Monday to you, too, sir. He's on YouTube. All right, Jason in Flagstaff said, other than the fact that it's football, he said, I'm about as excited for this MSU season as I am about a trip to the dentist. Jason. Hey, yeah, I was talking about the transfers on the defensive line, and someone brought up a kid from A&M. Somebody texted in, is it Scylla or Sela from A&M, big 6'6" kid. He's listed as a linebacker. I don't know that much about him. I probably need to take the time to watch a little bit. Listed as linebacker. Don't know what that means, if that's 3'4", standing up, playing on the edge, and like where he fits. But a guy that tall, that big, 6'6", 250, you could probably do a lot with him. And you're right, it probably does involve, pass rush and edge play and that kind of thing in certain packages. And I would guess then I probably should have included him. But as you look, just guys who are, you have to have players who are putting their hands down in the ground right across from centers and guards and occasionally on the inside shoulders of offensive tackles, who those individuals will make plays by themselves at times. You just have to have it. If you don't have it, I mean, look at drafts and defensive tackles and, you know, the Jeffrey Simmons and the Fletcher Cox type players. If you know, look at the premium that's on those types of players. Chris Jones. If you don't, I mean, it's like an polar opposite situation you're in just based on what you do or don't have in there. And yeah, pass rush on an edge is awesome. You got to have it. They're going to make their fair share of plays. But, you know, in especially in shotgun offenses, if a quarterback is only pressured on one edge or the other, you can actually make a living because you're climbing the pocket, you're getting up back in there where you started behind center into a clean pocket and getting throws off with a clean field of view. You just and letting them run that arc on the outside. Sure, they're going to get you sometimes. But where the real problems happen are when you have a 3 technique or a nose like a Jeffrey Simmons, somebody with their hand down who's coming in A gap, B gap, and too often that player is so disruptive, he is splitting blocks, splitting combo blocks, you know, better known as double teams, and there's no pocket to climb into. Or, you know, there's inside zone and the block, the individual doesn't happen, and so an individual gets a tackle for loss, and now it's 2nd down and 12, and all you did is run inside zone. He's supposed to make a yard in the A gap, but you didn't because you had a player make a play on defensive line. So the reason I'm pointing that out is I just think that's where it started. That's where it ended for that state team last year. Is on that defensive front, you had no shot, none. And that's why, you know, think about it. Think about the big deal we make about tackles. I'm not offensive tackles. I'm talking about tackling on defense and the number of tackles you pile up. Well, State's defense last year, the only one in the SEC to give up over 400 yards a game. The only one in the SEC to give up over 30 points a game. Yet, okay, you had the number 1 and the number 2 tacklers in the SEC. Isaac Smith, the safety, and Stone Blanton, the linebacker. You put Nick Mitchell in there, you had 3 of the top 15 individual tacklers, okay, in the SEC in terms of numbers of tackles. But the real story there is what? Every play another team ran got to the next level where Stone Blanton and Isaac Smith were playing. Every play, it seemed like. And occasionally there might be a play made in a backfield, but it's made by who? Isaac Smith, because you're having to bring a safety to get any pressure whatsoever. Because elsewhere inside, if you draw a red circle around defensive line, it might as well not be out there. And so, you know, it paints a picture of what is and isn't important. Statistically, there's some that it looks good, but it ain't that important. And that would be, I mean, I don't know that you necessarily have to have a linebacker or a safety leading the league in tackles in order to have a good defense. All right, over to the phones, the Davini Equipment phone line, Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson. It is Rooster on line 1. What's up, Rooster?
Hey guys.
Hey.
Yeah, just called to gloat as usual. I gloat a lot, don't I?
Well, that's okay.
Are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
I gloat. I get to gloat a lot. I'm correct.
About what?
You know, about my predictions. I predict LSU to win the College World Series when they picked 13.
All right.
I didn't take Tennessee. I didn't take Arkansas. I took LSU.
Okay.
But anyway, the Greencocks were silenced. You know, does anybody know what a Chanticleer is? It's a rooster.
Yeah, it's a rooster. I do know this. They want to make sure that we know it's Chanticleer, and they didn't want to say Chanticleer. I know that.
Yeah, it's dumb. They ought to call them the Greencocks. We got the Gamecocks. The reason they're The Roosters, because of South Carolina, is the Gamecocks. We'll call them the Green Cocks.
Okay.
That'd be a cute name, Green Cock. Anyway, the Cocks were silent. But all I want to say is we need to change that rule, and maybe they'll understand that. I think the coaches got thrown out on purpose. They were desperate. But the rule I'm talking about is hit by pitch. These guys aren't trying to get out of the way. They want to get hit. They need to change that rule. If you don't try to get out of the way of the pitch, it's real simple. You're out.
Yeah, but I disagree with that.
Get out of the way.
See, I disagree with it. I think for me, the determination should be this. Are you intentionally putting an arm or any part of your body in front of the baseball to get it hit? You're moving into the baseball. Okay, then you're going to have to stay here. Otherwise, if you're in the batter's box and you're in your stance, okay, and you're still as a statue because you're willing to wear one off the elbow because he's thrown it in there, and the only thing you have to do to get hit is not move, then that ought to be, if you take it, that ought to be first base. That's the way I see it.
Well, they set a record. I forgot what it was that somebody mentioned it. But anyway, we got the rightful champion back. You realize that 4 out of the last 21, 22, 23, 24. The SEC West Division has won it 4 times.
Yeah.
So the SEC West Division is pretty good.
Yep.
And let's just hope the Bulldogs can compete next year. That's the deal. We want to. I think the team to beat is Tennessee. They're mad. They're going to spend a lot of money. But we're going to have now joining the hierarchy, because we've always got Ole Miss, but now we've got the judge in Starkville. We got O'Connor. So I'm looking forward to. We can't make the College World Series, at least being a regional host. I'm excited about baseball next year already, and glad to see the Tigers come through. Glad to see the Chanticleers, Green Cocks silence. 2 games. So that was the prediction, if y'all remember, a long time ago. Rooster said, 13 teams, I would pick LSU.
All right.
They have a way of winning. What is there, 7 out of 8 they've won and they've appeared? I think it's 7 out of 8. Or 8 or 9 or whatever.
I think it's like 8 of 9.
Unlike Arkansas, they're not jinxed.
No.
But it was a great series. The right team wound up winning, and the SEC is still number 1.
Yep.
I'll shut up, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Appreciate you, Rooster. Call anytime. Thank you. Yeah, Will, that's it. We got everything else fixed, but the echo on the phone calls on our end is still there. And I know you could hear that on YouTube. I appreciate you hanging in there. Rooster, did he pick it? The thing was, I didn't remember it. So we got to take his word for it. When did Rooster supposedly pick LSU? How long ago was that? Yeah, Dennis, formerly of Omaha, he texted, he said, Matt, when our 2 kids left home for college, the wife and I just looked at each other and said, okay, what do we do now? He said, you don't realize how much your kids drive your schedule until they left home. Yeah, Mary Liddy, she's having a great time at church camp this week, but it's weird around here without her. I mean, it really is. Annabeth and I are both like, what do we do? What do we do? All right, hour 2 coming up after this. Stick around.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that. What that is. That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now. Country Pleasing sausage, these flavors, and many, many others. Get them online at countrypleasing.com. At a grocery store near you, pretty much anywhere in the Southeast. Walk up in there and say, Country Pleasing, please. They'll know what you're talking about.
Grew up on a family farm out past Leland, just born and raised here in the Mississippi Delta. Never really thought about moving out. You know, it's where my roots are. Our family's a big sports family. It was 4 boys and 1 girl, and all 4 of us boys went and played ball at Delta Community College. My dad, he's always been honestly a role model of mine. He's farmed his whole life. We attend St. James Catholic Church in Leland, where we went to church my whole life, and then now continuing my family, me and my wife and my 3 kids. Being a Christian is everything for me and my family. Being born and raised here in this area, there's just something about this area. I mean, when you pull into it, you don't see a whole lot, but being born and raised here in the farm families and just the people that grew up here, the people that you see here, you see in the grocery store, you go to church with, small town community, you're gonna run into people that you know. It puts a smile on your face knowing that you know the people in your area, in your community. Get to know them as friends and now bring them in to my office here and creating that relationship, extending it on, getting them as insureds, as customers of mine, who I call friend. I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau, and we are the home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and murraywest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. I say they do quality stuff. They really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, murraywest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there, Murray West. You can find them online. murraywest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
To paying the certified mechanic of your choice. Act now and get 1 full year of elite benefits. A $2,000 value, free.
Call for your fast free quote today. Call 800-298-2007. That's 800-298-2007. 800-298-2007.
This Entertainment Insider is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Singer, songwriter, and actor Bobby Darin was a Grammy Award winner with hits such as Splish Splash and Dream Lover. Jonathan Groff says it's an honor to play him in the new Broadway musical, Just in Time.
He was at the height of his powers when he was on the floor of a nightclub with the audience in the palm of his hand.
A word from Progressive Insurance. Life can be hard, so Progressive makes bundling your home and auto easy. Hope that helps. Learn more at progressive.com or at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE.
Here's Comedians and Sketchers Getting Comfortable, presented by Hands-Free Skechers Slip-Ins.
Hey, I'm Bobby Slayton, and I'm here with my pal, comedian, and Skechers ambassador, Mr. Howie Mandel.
Why did it take so long to invent something as amazing as Slip-Ins? I know it seems simple, but it took Skechers to invent a better pair of shoes.
Yep, with Skechers Slip-Ins, you just step it and go. You don't have to touch your shoes. And by the way, Slip-Ins are for the whole family, men, women, and kids. In all your favorite Skechers styles, find Skechers Slip-Ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
WRKS Pickens Jackson. We are good to go. With more of the Matt Wyatt Show. Coming to you direct and live. The Zone 105.9 and worldwide. Now, here we go. At the Zone1059.com.
All right. Here we go. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance. Scott, he texted the show on the Country Pleasing text line at 885-3776. That's a 601 number. 885-3776. We were talking about the barrel drink that we used to get as kids, a little Kool-Aid-like thing, but it wasn't Kool-Aid. This was stronger. It was more sugar or something in it. It messed you up if you leave this aftertaste. But you remember the barrel drink. It had the tinfoil cap on it. And Scott texted and said the drink we used to have was jungle juice. He said it was some pretty good stuff. Hunter, okay, let me, so cat out of the bag. We did a countdown here. Threw it out there, 67 days, which it will go by quickly. I mean, when you think about it, we're just barely a couple months removed from it. So it's going to go by fast. 67 days away from kickoff. That'll be State versus Southern Miss at 11 a.m. If you want to know exactly, here it is. 67 days, 21 hours, 58 minutes, and 13, 12, 11, 10 seconds. And counting. Hunter texted, he said, hey, man, I was wondering about the size of Southern Miss's press box and if you can all fit in it, or is it similar to Missouri baseball's heater in a closet? No, they've got a nice press box. You know, it's plenty big, plenty of room. That's been my experience. In terms of calling, you know, a state game, I've been there once. That was 2015, the season opener 2015, when we went. And the windows do not open. That's the only downside is, you know, there's don't ask me all the details, but it's something to do with hurricane strength winds. And if it's ever happened there within a certain distance or whatever, you can't have, you know, windows that open over a certain height. So like you're in there. Okay. There's no, and so that, you know, I think there's a feed that they give you that connects to a microphone that is outside the booth, so that on your broadcast you can pump in the crowd noise and mix it all together, so it's obvious you're at a ball game. It doesn't sound like two guys talking to each other in a closed room, you know. But yeah, you got to keep the windows closed. But and then I was there one other time. I think it was the first time that they held the high school state championships there at the Rock. I'm pretty sure it was the first time. And I think that was the year that, what could I mark it as? I think that was the year that Horn Lake and N'Kobe Dean, who went on to Georgia, you'll remember, beat John Rice Plumlee and Oak Grove in the state championship game. And that was in Hattiesburg. I think that was the year, and that was the weekend. I think it was the first time they'd had the games there in Hattiesburg. And so I was not in the broadcast booth, but I was there doing some other stuff and walking around and kind of walked through. And I remember it being pretty decent. Plenty of room for the amount of media that will be there, and radio booths and all that kind of stuff. And in terms of a radio booth, I remember, you know, it's not the biggest, roomiest I've ever been to, but it's pretty nice. All the stuff you might want, right? Working bathrooms, coffee maker up there in the press box, that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay, and I may have told you this before, Hunter, but my experience there in 2015, my first time to go in as a broadcaster, was when Dak Prescott and State opening the 2015 season. That was his senior year in Hattiesburg, season opener on that, whatever that was. And the game kicked off at 9 p.m. First game of the 2015 season. And it was actually two NFL quarterbacks, Dak Prescott versus Nick Mullins. They both, obviously, both of them more than just a cup of coffee in the NFL. They've had long careers. And both started games, obviously. But that was neat. It was a good ball game. It was competitive. Both teams made some plays early. I remember State had a huge Brandon Holloway, I think it was a kickoff return. Didn't go for a score, though. Like they caught him down there at about the 1 yard line or something. And then at some point, Dak throwing a football sort of took over that ball game. But it was a competitive game for a while. The other things I remember about it, again, only time I've ever been in the broadcast booth for a Mississippi State game like we will do in 67 days. They kicked the game off at 9 p.m. that night, that year, because there was, I don't know, they put it on some obscure television channel that had like a boxing event prior. And so they pushed it back to a 9 p.m. kickoff. Your thought was, well, okay, season opener that first weekend of the year, it's good and hot and humid, but maybe by 9 o'clock at night, some of that has backed off or eased off a little bit. Well, no, it was still hot. It was just much more humid. And what happened was those closed windows that you could not open, you got serious AC pumping on the inside, and then you got hot and muggy on the outside. So what happens to the window? Right. It gets covered in condensation and fogs over. Covered in condensation would be a good technical, but fogged over would be my way of communicating to you what happened to it. Well, the problem was we couldn't do anything about it on the inside. This was back when Jim Ellis was still our play-by-play man for football. And I'm up there with him, and I think Mr. Carrero was still on the sideline. And it's pregame, and we're going through pregame stuff, which you're not really required to be able to see the field. Well, we can't. But then all of a sudden, it's getting real close to kickoff, and we realize it's getting worse. We cannot see out of this window. You can't see it. So we alerted someone in there with Southern Miss to say, hey, you see what's happening here? He's like, yeah, hang on. We'll get somebody to take care of it. And I mean, I'm talking about they put the football on the tee, and we're just about to go when somebody in the stands at the Rock, one of the workers there, had a squeegee on about a 35 or 40-foot pole and came out on the top row of the stadium underneath our booth and reached that squeegee all the way up there and started, squeegeeing off our window so that we could see. And it seems like he had to go out there and do that one more time during the game. I do remember that. And then the other memory about it, which nobody cares, it'd just be a personal thing, but I was sick as a dog walking into that game. I got sicker and sicker as the game went on. And when it was over, I was in rough shape. And what was terrible about it is we had already made plans given on who was going to be there and how it was all going to have to work to get Jim down to their locker room after the game to, interview Dan Mullen and Dak Prescott and do the post-game show from the locker room. And I was going to have to stay in the press box and finish up the rest of the post-game show solo by myself from the press box. And so I was so bad off. By the time they came to me, it was like 2 a.m. because the game kicked off at 9. 2 a.m, I'm up here doing a post-game show in the press box. I can't see out the window, and I'm sick as a dog. And, not even really joking, the first entire segment on the radio of the post-game show went like something about like this. Welcome back to the Rock. Final score tonight, State this, Southern Miss that. Back after this. I mean, that's about all I could do. And, buddy, you talk about then at 3 a.m, driving from the stadium to my hotel, and I'm at all. And then on top of that, we had launched a brand new Sunday morning football podcast, and that was going to be the first one that following morning, and it was just so. Other than the outcome of the game, I didn't have that great memories of the experience. The first one I had there at the Rock. All right, over to the phone line, the Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson. Your Kubota dealer. There, if you're on the live stream and you're listening online, you may hear a little echo on my voice. But other than that, everything's cool. Just hang in there with me. We're going to head on over here to line 1 where Winslow is hanging on. What's up, Winslow?
Matt, how's it going?
Just right.
Well, good. That explanation about the hurricane windows, that kind of explains maybe why the best baseball press box has got this, solid sheet of glass on the front that looks like it's about 1 inch thick.
That's it.
My memories of that, I like to joke that I had a chair back seat because I was literally sitting against the back of the stadium on the top row over there. And that, I'm not kidding you, that it's so steep there that you don't feel comfortable standing up, so you basically kind of monkey crawl up there,
Yeah.
And then you get up there, and then I guess the only other thing I remember is somebody there in McGee decided to put up a roadblock about 2 o'clock in the morning on Highway 49. So,
wow.
The traffic was backed up twice, getting out of Hesburgh and then trying to navigate through McGee. But, that game was probably my first good look at Nick Fitzgerald. And, remember late in the game, he came in and he made some runs. And I turned to the guy next to me and I said, man, that guy is faster than Dak.
Yeah.
And he said, you ain't kidding. And so, in years to come, we learned that.
Yep. That's
right. That was not a whole lot that I remember about that. I think I ran into Delbert Hoseman, coming in and out of the restroom one time, and he and I kind of shook hands and exchanged greetings. But I will tell you this, I'm really nervous about that game because just like it was that year, that they were fired up for that game.
Oh, yeah.
And, if not for Dak, then, State may lose that game.
Yeah, you're right. And this year, Charles Huff, new coach at USM from Marshall. And I don't know it backwards and forwards, but I do know this, that they have a whole new football team. Marshall was pretty good under him, and heck, half of Marshall's football team is now the Southern Miss football team.
Yep. Yeah, and I think they're pointing to that game already, and will all summer. So, it's going to be on Jeff Levy to make sure that he has State ready and not taking anything for granted in that game.
He better. And they better be better in every aspect of the game than they were a year ago. I know that much. Talking about at State, State's offense and everything, for sure. Winslow, appreciate the phone call. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, call me anytime. Let's see. Yeah, Jason commented on that. He said, I'm worried about the offense, too. They can't be going 3 and out the whole first half of games. It just amplifies how bad the defense is. It is, especially when they're bad last year. They'd get into some of that. And that's the other thing, too, Jason, when you really take a close look at it. People giggle because I will get asked from time to time. Someone will say, I'll bump into them or I'll meet someone. What about State this year? And they'll giggle when I say, I think it's going to be a little better because, frankly, it can't be any worse. And that would be for State in comparison to the rest of the SEC, which it showed true in the games last year. And then they lose Shapen, and that really magnified it for them. But I'm not necessarily joking. I'm really not joking. Defensively, you would, especially with the number of transfers they brought in that are from other, 4-year schools, they'd have to try really, really hard. You'd actually have to try to be worse on defense this year than they were last year. Okay, so naturally you think, well, then they're probably going to be a little better defense. Yeah, I mean, almost by default, if they keep most of these guys healthy, particularly in the defensive front seven, if they transferred in here, by default, they're just going to be a little better, defensively. How much better, we'll see. But unlike you, Jason, it's sort of the historical nature of the struggles on defense last year almost distract from the idea that they had a long way to go offensively. It was a consistency deal, wasn't it? I think that was the biggest thing. There was some explosive stuff there, and it really did change them when they had to make the change at quarterback. But they, still he did some good things, and at times they ran the ball well. Running back group's really good, but offensive line issues kept them from being consistent. They just could not be a consistent offense, so they would frustrate you at times. Sometimes you look at them and go, okay, they're doing this well, and they move the ball there. They were, you look at the Texas game, they were competitive. They went up and down the field some. But I think I was wrong too, also, Jason, at times last year, because I would come back from some of those games, you understood the situation. And so mentally it's like almost you're lowering your expectations going in every week. And so when they would do some good things offensively, which they did from time to time, I'd think, this offense can go. They can go. And I remember saying at times, they're actually, they're not great by any stretch. They're not bad, though, on offense. They're actually good. They can have a good offense. But I think I was wrong about that. I go back and look, and you can't say – that's one thing I've done is you go back and watch a little bit of it some more to try to refresh your memory, because, frankly, last year one of the easiest things to do was just move on each week and wipe the slate clean and try to forget it. But you go back and look at it, you couldn't – I shouldn't have been calling them good because there wasn't enough consistency to actually be good. Right? To me, that's part of being good is you're consistent, and they just couldn't be. Very hit or miss. And they'd have games where, it would take them an entire quarter to settle in and get past 2, 3 and outs and start running their offense. They're always behind. Well, you can't say they're good if that's it. They'd do some good things, but they weren't really a good offense. Old Tackle texted the show. He said the old mantra of a defensive lineman is, if you can't make a tackle, make a mess. And that is so true. I'm going to steal that, Old Tackle. I'm stealing it. I'm writing it in my memory here. He said we didn't make enough messes last year. I think the word that I've been using was disruptive. And I've illustrated it this way. You think about this, Old Tackle. I know you would agree. When you have, these are obvious examples, okay? These are first round type examples. But when you have a Jeffrey Simmons or a Chris Jones or a Montez Sweat, those kinds of players, well, they are so disruptive individually that it's just what you're saying. They don't have to make a tackle, but they blow everything up. You can't run your play. It's like you're trying to get work in scrimmage 11-on-11 stuff. In practice, you're trying to get work, which offense requires timing and reps in the timing. Defense, not necessarily the same way. Well, you can't get any timing or reps in the timing of the play when you got Simmons over there or Jones or Sweat, because as soon as you say Hut, he's messing everything up. Even if he doesn't make the tackle, he just messed it all up, right? Because we can't block him. He's so disruptive, we just can't block him. So you have to tell the defensive staff, hey, well, you get him out give us 3 plays with him. Let him sit for 3, okay? And then they take him out, and now you can run some stuff. Because otherwise, all he's doing is he just makes a mess of everything, because that's his job, and that's why they're so good. Well, you're exactly right. I remember watching in the preseason last year, going into that year and going, They're just, it does not exist. State's front last year, you could see it before the year began. They didn't have anybody individually capable of really just busting everything up. Like the cue ball going on there and just busting everything to pieces. That's what you kind of have to have. They didn't have any of that. And whether or not they have it this year, we'll see. We'll watch some stuff in the fall. I just know one little look at them in the spring, and you could tell just individually some of these people they brought in every so often. Hibbler, or the guy from Alabama/Miami, I think he was wearing 88. Every now and then it'd be like, bang. Well, he shot himself out of a cannon right there, and there was nothing you could do about it. Blew the whole play up. Well, good. Been a while since I've seen that. And again, whether or not you can go do that, 15 times against a really good team in the SEC, I don't know. I will see when that happens. But at least they got a chance to do it now. They had no chance last year. Love that old tackle. You're exactly right. If you can't make the tackle, make a mess of it. All right. And in a definition, Dog Tired in Florence says, random fact of the day, Chanticleer is obviously a rooster, famous from, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Their mascot's named Chauncey. He said, and the breed is rare, possibly endangered. The Chanticleer. Rooster was saying they were green. Are they really green? They're not green. They're teal. That's not green. Right? I don't know. All right. Some more headlines for you when we come back, and more. Back after this.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. MurrayWest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
I had this opportunity come up to a friend of mine that was an agent here at Farm Bureau that, he said this may be something I like to do because he knew I was involved in the community. And what we do, we're supporting the community. We're doing stuff to protect the members of our community. I've been here almost a decade. And what we do, we help people every day through the products we sell. We make recommendations to them, stuff to protect their assets, protect their lives, their families, and we're local. We're local people. Everybody that works in this office has grown up here, lived here, played ball in this community. I've coached in this community, been on the park boards, the sports league boards, the booster club boards. The community is what's important here in Farm Bureau. We push the local community. We're a Mississippi company. That's a Washington School team ball from 2019. Greg Wallace was the head coach then, and him and I were really good friends. I've been in Greenville my whole entire life. My family's been here. This is home. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to support the people of Washington County, protect them. I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County. We are the home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that. You know what that is? That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt. In the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio, Farm Bureau Insurance. Go! The home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. We're counting it down. Well, all right. I got 3 countdowns going on. 1. It is 67 days until kickoff between Mississippi State and Southern Miss in Hattiesburg. It'll be 11 p.m. kick on August the 30th, 67 days from today. To be exact, 67 days, 21 hours, and 32 minutes. And I don't know, about 50 seconds. The reason I know this, I'm looking at something online here that counts it down. So 67 days to that. 5 days is the countdown. We're at 5 days away from the big live remote broadcast of this radio show at Camper Corral in Gluckstadt/Madison for their customer appreciation sale. Now, the sale is going on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This radio show will be there Friday, so that's 5 days from now at Camper Corral. Looking forward to that. Y'all come out. We're going to have some food from Country Pleasing. Yeah! That's reason enough. So come see us. The customer appreciation sale at Camper Corral, like I said, it begins Thursday. And let's see. Oh, here you go. 20% off all parts Thursday, Friday, Saturday at Camper Corral. 20 to 40% off MSRP on all campers those 3 days, including Friday when you're there for the radio show. And if you buy a new or used camper or RV during those 3 days, you're automatically entered into a drawing for one of those Flex Armor roof upgrades, anywhere $6,000 to $10,000 value. Plus, like you said, food. So come see us on Friday for the radio show. And then the other countdown is at 4 days. Isn't that right? 4? I think Tuesday. Yeah, we're at 4 days until Mary Liddy comes home from camp. And we're struggling. We're over here struggling without her. We're not sure quite how to handle it. We don't do this much. She's our baby. We don't turn her loose that much. Certainly, away from home for a week. I got tickled at Annabeth because we first got back and Mary Lydia was not at home. And I thought I observed Annabeth just doing all kinds of busy work. Just anything she could do, just keep herself busy. She didn't want to sit down and be still. So any of y'all empty nesters out there, you know what I'm talking about. That's not what this is. She's coming back, but it's at 4 days. And I am so looking forward to it. I am really looking forward to it. Okay. Yeah, look. All right. We've been talking state football. The ins and outs. Told you I posted a YouTube video. It's out there on the YouTube channel. It's just Matt Wyatt Media, or Radio Wyatt actually is, I think, the name of the channel too. That'll get you there. But a video, it's kind of highlighting all these new players that State went out and brought in the transfer portal on the defensive line. Okay, and not necessarily also including just, stand-up edge rushers. No, I'm talking about big ones that'll put their hand down in the dirt. And that's where the game is won and lost. And so they've got to have a transformation. And I know that just from a personnel standpoint, it is a transformation. But then you got to see, how good they are, and does it all come together, and does it all work? And then the other part of that is the schedule, which I have found this, and I'm seeing it right now in the Country Please and text line with like RT and Jason, and almost no matter who I talk to, I do have a lot of hope for State football that they're going to make some improvement and eventually get it back on four legs and go be competitive. With the stuff they've been through, it's been tough. But everybody then brings me back down to earth, and they bring up the schedule. And it's inverse in many ways of what it was a year ago in terms of home and away on this 2-year thing that they're doing. And everybody brings up the schedule, and you're like, good night. They could be a lot better and still it not really show, barring major upsets, barring multiple major upsets. You could be a lot better and it still not show. RT texted the show and said this: I just look at State's football program the last 2 years after Coach Leach's passing. Leach recruiting was also not ever highly ranked, but his players were right for the system. And he says if State were to move on from Levy, they'll have to overturn the roster again. He says, I think they have to give him 2 more years unless they win less than 3 games this year and show no improvement in talent acquisition and wins. He said it's not his fault. He was dealt with a schedule that Kiffin couldn't win 6 games. Well, let's see. Southern Miss down there in Hattiesburg. 3 straight home games, host Arizona State, host Alcorn, host Northern Illinois. No, 4 straight home games. After the opener in Hattiesburg, 4 straight at home. Arizona State, Alcorn State, Northern Illinois, and then you host Tennessee. You travel to College Station, and then hit the road 2 weeks later to Gainesville, Florida on October the 18th. To then come back home the last Saturday in October and host Texas. And then in November, go to Arkansas and Fayetteville. Ooh, I will look forward to that trip. I love going to Fayetteville, Arkansas and Northwest Arkansas in November. You talk about a pretty place, in my opinion. But it'll be tough to win a game up there, won't it? Go to Fayetteville on November 1st and then come home to host Georgia. Next week, back on the road to Missouri. And then Thanksgiving, back home to host Ole Miss. So, we'll see about Arizona State in week 2. We'll see about, Southern Miss. They're a whole new team. And they're going to be a physical team. I talked to somebody who went to a Southern Miss practice. Somebody I know, I like their opinion. Someone who's generally got their feet on the ground and said, tell you this much. They went in the spring, watched them scrimmage, watched Southern Miss scrimmage in the spring. He said, I'll tell you this much, man. That's a physical bunch of kids right there. He said, they're flying around, hitting each other. He said, and it hadn't been that way. And so that was that was at least one football guy told me that. You get Arizona State week 2, playoff team from a year ago. And maybe, RT said Arizona State's going to win by 30, and maybe they will. But at least if they do beat you by 30, at least it's not going to be with Scattaboo running over and through your defense all night long. That rascal, let the NFL deal with him. Yeah, Tennessee, they'll unless states majorly improve, they'll score what they want to score. And then you get an A&M, you got to go over there. Florida, you got to go there. And you're like, oh, man. In the last 5 games of the year, 3 of your last 5 games of the year at home. Yep. Texas, Georgia, and Ole Miss. Whew. I'm telling you, it is a booger of a schedule. No doubt about it. But, look. Things can change on a dime. Things can change on a dime. And RT, something you said I do think makes a lot of sense is, the kind of improvement that you're dealing with, right? Again, you have, not only do you have a coach who passes away and doesn't get to complete kind of what they want to do, but it is Coach Leach who recruited very differently than other programs did. It's a program sort of transformation thing back then if you wanted to bring him in with that offense, right? And, he passed away, and unforeseen, you have to go through that, and then it is an overturn of everything, but including roster and sort of how you approach recruiting. Everything else, every other built-in excuse that you have, but on top of all that, it's at a time where they can say what they want about it going forward. Who knows? We'll see. But what you've had the last few years is, if you want bad enough, if your alums want bad enough to invest in football, they can sure do it, because you can make a run at anybody in the country, any player in the country. You can pay them. You can offer to pay them to get in the portal to see if they'll leave and come to you. You can offer to pay them to come to you. And that was sort of the price of the cost of doing business, so to speak. So it was a really tough time to be having to go through all that. So if the competitiveness can just jump up another notch, maybe upset somebody, maybe scare somebody to death, right? Keep people healthy. You feel like, you got something to build on. But bottoming out, falling flat, kind of the product, if it looks like it did a year ago, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough on everybody. All right. That might even be very much an understatement. I don't know. All right. A little bit of time left with you here on this Monday. So get it in here. Comment, text, or call. And we'll wrap it up when we come back. I'm Matt in the Bureau. Back after this.
I'm 𝐷𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢 with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar, or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that. What that is. That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now. Country Pleasing sausage, these flavors, and many, many others. Get them online at countrypleasing.com. At a grocery store near you, pretty much anywhere in the Southeast. Walk up in there and say, Country Pleasing, please. They'll know what you're talking about.
Grew up on a family farm out past Leland, just born and raised here in the Mississippi Delta. Never really thought about moving out. It's where it's where my roots are. Our family's a big sports family. It was 4 boys and 1 girl. and all 4 of us boys went and played ball at Delta Community College. My dad, he's always been honestly a role model of mine. He's farmed his whole life. We attend St. James Catholic Church in Leland, where we went to church my whole life, and then I continue with my family, me and my wife and my 3 kids. Being a Christian is everything for me and my family. Being born and raised here in this area, there's just something about this area. I mean, when you pull into it, you don't see a whole lot, but being born and raised here and the farm families and just the people that grew up here, the people that you see here, you see in the grocery store, you go to church with, small town community, you're gonna run into people that you know. It puts a smile on your face knowing that you know the people in your area, in your community. Get to know them as friends and now bring them in to my office here and creating that relationship, extending it on, getting them as insureds, as customers of mine, who I call friend. I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau, and we are the home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. I say they do quality stuff. They really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. Back with you, I'm Matt. In the Bureau, JS290, I think that's a good way to frame it up, and it seems open-ended, but if you watched last year, maybe not. We just we know it when we see it, right? He said MSU needs to look competitive in all the games, right? Jason in Flagstaff, he said the schedule is awful. He said, I expect that Arizona State team to be much better on offense than last year. And he says, forget the usual SEC slate of top 10 teams. Yeah. And so quarterback is back and a lot of the other pieces, right? At Arizona State. And you would think for them too, I have to say it this way, Jason, because I have not looked up to see what they did in terms of transferring players into Arizona State. But so I have to say, but you would think that playoff appearance and all that kind of stuff and quarterback back probably helps them or did help them to bring in players they wanted. We'll see. All right. Then he said, what was the lake picture that you put on X last night? He said, it looked familiar, but those places are a dime a dozen in the hills of Northeast Mississippi. Yeah, I know there's more than one, right? No, that was Pickwick. We were up there at Pickwick this weekend and stayed in a really nice place and not too far up from Eastport Marina, up on the side of one of those big hills. And so you can see a long way over into Alabama, which that part of Pickwick Lake, which is that 50 some odd mile stretch from Wilson Dam at McFarland Park and where am I saying? Florence, all the way to Pickwick Dam in Tennessee, right? So Pickwick, and in that stretch, the Mississippi and Alabama state line runs right through the middle of the lake in the water, and that's kind of where we were. And it was Pickwick. Yep. It was really, really Really beautiful up there. It's just always is a beautiful place. And I especially love being there where you can see the sun come up. RT texted and said, Mary Liddy sounds like one of my friend's son, who my buddy said that he was the most responsible member of the family. It may be, I don't know though. It'd be hard to be more responsible than Annabeth for sure. But you could say this, RT. Matt is the least responsible member of the family. I mean, you could say that. And I know that it's here I probably not a surprise to anyone. I talk for a living, for a good portion of the living, right? Radio show and broadcast games, and I guess I've always been a talker. I guess I have. I will say that's changed as I've gotten older, especially solo hosting a radio show now for going on 7 years. That what that does to you is the rest of the day you're kind of tired of talking. And I do less and less talking, or I look to do less and less talking outside of this radio show. That changed that. But here's what I'm saying, RT. My dad tells a story about the first time that I, at around 10 or 11 years old, went to church camp. Back then it was for RAs, royal ambassadors, that we used to get together and do the thing with our, we go camping and fishing and, the other boys in church and stuff. And anyway, it was for RAs. We had church camp, RA camp, went to Shaco Springs near Talladega, Birmingham. So I was gone for a week. It was the first time I ever did that as a kid. And he tells the story that the first or second night that I was gone there, that he and my mother and my sister, they sat down at the table for dinner. And then after a little bit, one of them commented and said, you know what? Boy, it's obvious that Matt does all the talking in this family. Because it was quiet. Nobody said anything. So apparently growing up, I did all the talking too. Apparently. Let's see. Jared texts the show. Jared says, my opinion about the schedule is State needs to go 4-0 or 3-1 in the first four, and then battle to get what they can out of the rest of the schedule. Maybe a win or two from Arkansas, Missouri, or Ole Miss. It says Arizona State was a couple of one-score games, won a couple of one-score games with a dominant runner, and those one-score games are likely to go the other way without it. Yeah, I know, Jared, this is something. Everything that you lay out is a logical thought process. Just you see what you see from these teams and a year ago, and then some players move on, and like you mentioned, Scatterboo move on from Arizona State, and then you look at it this year and home and away. It's a very logical, practical way of looking at it, and which is always the way I've looked at it. But what has happened is the last 3 to 4 years, you almost have to force yourself, Jared, not to look at it that way, and force yourself to remember, and I too also, that we don't know anything about those teams. We assume a lot, and because I can't stand here right now and with any confidence at all recite to you of the teams you mentioned. Arkansas, I can't recite to you which of their starters stayed and which of their starters transferred, and then who they replaced those starters with. Recruits, starters from other schools. So in the blink of an eye, Missouri, okay, good a year ago, right? I can't tell you anything about Missouri. I just can't. I can't stand here and tell you Missouri kept these many starters. These many of their starters transferred. This one, that one graduated. And then they brought in, X amount of high school recruits. This one from JUCO, 10 or 12 transfer portal additions. From which schools are they from? Then let's say there's a team out there, You mentioned Ole Miss. Let's say, again, I don't know their numbers. Let's say Ole Miss has, just throw out a round number, 10. Hypothetical 10 players that transfer in that are portal additions from other four-year programs, D1 type schools. Well, what did they need versus what did they get? How, you can say, well, this individual is really good. He was good where he was. Okay, but how's it going to work? Is it automatically that they gel as a team? Is it automatic that it operates like one big machine? So I just don't know. And I don't think anybody really does really know 1 year to the next. Now, we obviously know there are some places that are spending way more money on their players and in upgrading and adding to their roster than other places are. And so then the general thought is, well, they're obviously going to get more better players because they're spending way more. And then you got to decide, okay, do I trust those evaluations? Well, maybe so, and maybe it all works together. And I don't know. Maybe we get 5 more years into this, and I go, what I've learned is that if you're paying these guys, their performance is much more consistent from one school to the next, from 1 week to the next, from 1 year to the next. Maybe that is the case, but I still think I can't with confidence stand here and pretend as though those things don't exist. And so I just don't know what they're going to have. I think in reality, nobody does. And the fact that in about a month, they're going to splatter us with quote unquote preseason rankings and all that kind of stuff, they will have never meant less than they will in about a month. Preseason rankings. Never in the history of sports will preseason this and preseason that have meant less than what it's going to mean when they give it to us in about a month. So I'm not going to pay attention to it until I can actually watch them play. All right. Jason in Flagstaff said, above Eastport is spectacular. Used to park my truck at the dead end circle just past the marina and walk those hills by the water with a crankbait. It is. And I had not been into the marina proper, Jason, in many years. And it's really nice. I think they've upgraded it quite a bit since I had been back there. Restaurant, gift shop, all those things. I was really impressed. Bulldog 44, I'm going to read this quick on the way out. Bulldog 44 on the text line said, the fact is the typical way anyone has ever analyzed an upcoming season is completely out the window now. A team could bring in a lot more talent than they had the year before, but have no chemistry or cohesion from the guys. It's almost impossible to project the season anymore. That's what I'm saying. Is if we're being honest about it, just because somebody or some team did something last year, I'm not convinced it has any bearing on this year at all. Like, at all. All right. Fun. Thanks for being a part of it here today on this Wednesday. We'll line up, do the same thing again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance. Go with the home team. See you then. See ya.